just because it's been an issue. I brought my Denton library card, my driver's license. Just want to make sure that you know that I am a constituent. So this whole campaign, a lot of people have been saying that Donald Trump was elected because he's going to bring jobs back. I just wanted to let you know that I lost my job last Friday because of Donald Trump's executive order on refugees and immigrants. And I, along with 8 other people in my office, am now without a job. And I just want to tell you that I blame you. I blame you. I blame you for putting this presidential campaign, for putting him in office. This isn't as if we had someone like John Kasich or Ted Cruz. You put and you supported Putin's puppet for president. And now I'm looking for another job. And I applied for AmeriCorps because I want to help people. And it turns out that he's looking to cut AmeriCorps as well. So, great. I'm really excited. But I also wanted to just bring this up. President Trump called the press the enemy of the American people. I want to know, do you believe that the press is the enemy of the American people? Not just, I don't want you to just dance around the question. I want you to say yes or no. The media is the enemy of the American people.
Well, with the possible exception of the Dallas Morning News, I don't think the press is the enemy of the people. I gave them the best seats in the House so they could be here today. But I will tell you, there are times where I think the responsibility of the media has been abrogated, and there were plenty of times in the 14 years that I've been in office, I've wondered why things were not more fairly and accurately reported. So the fact that there is attention drawn on that now, I say good on it. And you know what? Knowing, having friends and family in journalism and in the media, I think they welcome that too. They want to be seen as a fair arbiter. They are the requirement in a free society, but they do need to fairly and accurately report the facts. Again, I gave them front row seats here in the House. I don't think Fox News is here. I wish they were, but I don't think they are. Proceed, please.
Good morning, Dr. Burgess. I'm going to address you as a doctor first. I'm Jennifer Kaiser. I live in Roanoke, Texas, 76262. I have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a neurodegenerative disease that is incurable. I work my butt off to not let this disease progress. I exercise like a crazy person. I'm vegan. I have chemo every 4 weeks that costs $12,000 a month. I am an analyst. I am well compensated. I have insurance through my employer. I work very hard for this disease to not end me. I want to be a good mom to my 2 kids and a good wife to my husband, okay? Okay. I would like to address you as my congressman now, okay? I am not someone that insurance companies can profit off of. I have lost the game, okay? My health costs are $180,000 per year. If you knew me in my daily life, you would think that I would be the last person to burden an insurance company, but that's not the case. So whenever I hear people using profit margins as justification for why I don't have access to care in 2 years or 5 years, I feel rage, okay? I'm a productive member of society. I'm a triathlete, and I have lost the game. This is a game of probability and economics and profitability, and we should not be letting insurance companies keep people like me from living well lives, whole lives, where I get to be present in my children's lives. So you can repeal the ACA over my dead and or crippled body. Yes or no? It's super simple. I know that you say that probably certain things won't be addressed in the reconciliation and that we probably won't lose pre-existing condition protections and the caps on annual and lifetime protection. Okay, probably. So I probably won't be cyclically bankrupted by my healthcare costs, and I probably won't end up in a wheelchair. I need you to tell me right now, will you fight to protect the annual and lifetime cap ban? Because I need you, Michael Burgess, to think about me when you vote. Think of my face, think of my two daughters, think of my husband.
What is the question again?
Will you protect the bans on annual and lifetime coverage? Remember, I'm not on Medicaid. I have a great job. I have employer insurance, and it used to be a $100,000 per year annual limit and a $1 million lifetime limit. I have a $180,000 per year medical cost, $80,000 a year. I don't have that lying around, and I know you probably don't have it lying around either. Most people do not. Will you protect the bans on annual and lifetime caps on coverage? It doesn't just affect the unemployed and the employed.
So the short answer is yes. There is a longer answer, and I would like to see us do better. I would like to see us do better on a lot of fronts. As you may know, I was last Congress the chairman of the Multiple Sclerosis Caucus. So every year I do the Ambassador's Ball up in Washington, D.C., where they do their major fundraiser for research. And the passage of the Cures Act in December of this year, that not just provided additional dollars for research, provided additional dollars for the FDA to perhaps do a better job with what they've been tasked to do, but also provide pathways to get things through the bureaucracy faster so that we don't spend 14 years and $14 billion developing every new product. I think those are important goals to bear in mind. There are flexibility issues with insurance within states, and state innovation grants is something that I support, and there are a number of states, even though so-called risk pools under the Affordable Care Act were disbanded, there are innovative things that states are doing. I read about one of them from Maine just 2 days ago. They're in a patient pool that they do. People don't even know they've been put into a risk pool because it's simply, you just sign up for insurance and it happens. And the insurance company participates in the cost of that. Yes, ratepayers do pay a $40 per member per month surcharge on their insurance policies, but it seems to be well accepted in the state of Maine, and I'm going to encourage our folks in Austin to look at that as well.
I hope you will remember my story going forward.
just because the configuration is difficult for individuals who have access needs to get down here. We have an extra microphone up at the top. Melanie has an individual up there.
Okay, all right.
And she's going to take the next question.
All right.
Hello. Thank you. For all those that retweeted my tweet to get me a microphone, I really appreciate it because we can't get down there with the stairs. So thank you. I'd just like to say that I am a supporter of public school education. But I am also not against school choice. If those schools, private and religious and any other school that decides to take federal funds through a tax credit or a voucher, adheres to federal guidelines for the independent or individuals with disability education act like my will you support that any school taking $1 federal adhere to government federal guidelines that supports choice for all or choice for none?
Just the question part of here.
The question is if you are a proponent of school choice, are you willing to stand up and say that every school that takes $1 federal has to adhere to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in providing resources and support, and although it may cost those schools more to adhere to it, that's the give and take from taking federal dollars.
That certainly has been what I have heard from the within the homeschool community. They're concerned about taking federal dollars. They tell me that they're actually not interested in a voucher because they don't want the government telling them what to do. Okay, good on it. But yes, to the extent that the federal government is providing resources, there are guidelines that are going to have to be followed. That was true under No Child Left Behind. That was true under the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's going to be
so you will not repeal those. You will not repeal those federal guidelines, and you will vote for all those schools to have to follow those federal guidelines.
Well, that's a condition of taking.
It's a yes or a no.
Well, the downside of taking federal dollars is they tell you what to do, right? So those schools that don't want,
they can't take federal dollars, but if you vote to take away those guidelines, then that doesn't make them have to pay for that. And I want to make sure that every child has a choice. If you're going to give children a choice, it should not be the healthier and the wealthier.
I don't think we disagree on that.
Dr. Burgess, we have 11 minutes until 10:30 when we were scheduled to end. We still have 74 people in the room. So. Also, one quick note for any of you that are standing along the back, we do have TDP seats up there in the top corner if you would like to sit up there. So, thank you. Next question.
Thank you, Dr. Burgess, for putting this on behalf of all my brothers and sisters in the individual groups. My name is Kelly Cummins. I'm a fairly new Texan. I moved down here from Minnesota, somewhat like you. But I did get to Texas as fast as I could. And as you can see by all the people here, this country is becoming more and more divided. So my question for you is, what I've seen is, you said so many times today, the GOP's done this, we've done this, the former administration's done this. It's that same rhetoric that I've seen split this country apart. And GOP and Democrat both at blame for it. You know, we go at each other. We got media that's sensationalizing both sides. And so my question for you is, when I see the GOP holding meetings for healthcare, not inviting Democrats in, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to listen to both sides, bring in your Democratic brothers and sisters in Congress, get them to the table so we can actually come together as a country?
It happens every day of the week. These guys aren't going to report it. It's not interesting. So you aren't going to see it. But it happens, I'll just tell you, it happens every day of the week. The discussion that we had with H.R. 2, where I think the lady who was asking the question and I were talking past each other, H.R. 2, major reform of the Medicare system, reformed the formula under which doctors are paid, something I worked for 13 years to get done. In 2009, when the Democrats were in charge, and they brought a bill that I thought was a very bad bill, but they brought it to the floor of the House to do the same thing. I didn't agree with the policy, but I agreed with the principle. I was the only Republican that voted for it that day. I took a lot of criticism for doing that. Long before I entered public office, George Will had the observation, I think it was in the presidential election of 2000, that the country is evenly divided, but it's not sharply divided. Somehow over the last 8 years, it became pretty sharply divided. I would actually go back to the Bush administration. It began. Our friends in the media are not blameless in this, but every single day of the week, every single day of the week. I mean, I'm a subcommittee chairman. I was a subcommittee chairman last Congress. We dealt with driverless cars, okay? Pretty non-controversial issue. Every bill that was marked up in the committee, I went to the Democrats and said, let us hear your thoughts. If there was a way to incorporate what they wanted into the base bill, so it didn't require an amendment, we tried to do that. We tried to accommodate them. The bill that repealed the sustainable growth rate formula, Democrats were in the room from the get-go. They were nervous. They were scared of us and what we were going to do. And I made the pledge, let's leave our weapons at the door. If there's a particular policy that is just so riven to party ideology that it's going to kill the bill, let's not do that right now. We'll put it in a box that's too hard and come back to it later. And as a consequence, we did pass that bill. It was March of 2015, 392 votes in the House. You don't think that was bipartisan? That was bipartisan. 92 votes in the Senate. I actually went over and watched them that night because I didn't trust them not to screw it up. 92 votes in the Senate. Yes, these things are possible. The Cures bill in December, big vote in the House, big vote in the Senate.
So are you doing that with the ACA currently? The ACA is repealed in place?
Yes.
How many Democratic brothers and sisters do you have on board?
There really has not been any enthusiasm on the Democratic side of the dais in the committee. I'm just telling you the truth. We worked together on the Cures bill. We worked together on the Food and Drug Administration reauthorization bill. We worked together on the SGR repeal bill. If there is a willingness to work together, you bet. We can do that. And there will be an opportunity. I mean, when the bill is worked up, there will be an opportunity for every Democratic amendment to be heard. When the ACA passed, and this is important for you to know this, when the ACA passed, I took 18 amendments to the Rules Committee in March of 2010, things that I thought would measurably improve the bill. And I spent hours there at the Rules Committee going through these amendments. How many were made in order? Actually, 0. And that was the same thing over and over and over again with every Republican member. When President Obama was elected, I reached out to his transition team. I said, I didn't give up a 25-year medical career to sit on the sidelines while you guys fiddle with health care. Talk to me. And did they? No, is the answer. And look, it could have put me in a tight spot. I'll just tell you, I don't know what I would have done if they said, well, we know you want to repeal this formula in Medicare that's driving your doctors crazy, But we got to have your help on the public option. I don't know what I would have done, quite honestly. But they never even tried. They never even tried.
I see that, and I appreciate you recognizing the history of that. But let's learn from our mistakes.
Dude, the SGR repeal bill, they were at the table the entire time.
And a good leader right now would bring other people, opposing sides, in on that. And that's my challenge to you. And I would say, bring those other voices in today, and not wait until the House floor. Thank you.
Thank you for having this town hall. My name is Janet Laminack. I'm from Denton, 76207. I was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer 2 years ago, and I know that you know that that's pretty rare for someone my age, and I know you also know there's a really high rate of recurrence for that disease. Also, during that, I found out that I was BRCA1 positive, a genetic mutation, so I have between a 50 and an 87% likelihood of developing breast cancer before I'm 70. Also, many other members of my family have also tested positive now with BRCA1 gene. So, I'm very concerned about my family having access to affordable health insurance. Can you guarantee that if the ACA is replaced, that I and people like me will not be turned down for insurance because of a pre-existing condition?
Again, it's not part of the discussion right now. It is not. I do feel, and you may recall several years ago, the Congress passed the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act to protect people just as yourself, so that genetic information could not be used against someone in either coverage determination or employment. And I do feel very strongly about this because I want more of us to have more of our genetic information. I think the Food and Drug Administration was wrong a couple of years ago when they put the brakes on 23andMe and said you can't provide this information to people about not the breast and ovarian cancer, but on other illnesses where there may be a genetic predisposition. I think people ought to know forewarned is forearmed. So I am absolutely for that, nor do I think people should be discriminated against because they took the trouble to find out.
Okay, and pre-existing conditions?
Again, going through the discussion, pre-existing conditions is not going to be included in any discussion that we have.
This year?
Well, I can't guarantee the future, but right now, the people that are talking about the pre-existing conditions are going to go away in the bill that will be before the committee next week. No, it doesn't.
Hello, Dr. Burgess. I'm Kathy Hartman. I live in Frisco, 75034. I'm not paid to be here. I'm a retired RN, so I could use the money, but
Well, if you were, then you should hold out for health benefits. Please proceed. I'm just trying to bring some levity into it.
I appreciate that. I support women's reproductive rights. I don't think as a nation we are going to solve our health care issues until we go to a single payer system. Right now, I'm a little more concerned that President Trump has on many occasions voiced support or admiration for Vladimir Putin. In an interview with Bill O'Reilly of Fox News, Trump even defended the Putin regime's killing of journalists and dissidents by saying, "There are a lot of killers. You think our country is so innocent?" There are reports outlining financial ties between Trump and Russian oligarchs with links to Putin. So my question, Dr. Burgess, which you've already touched on, do you support the release of President Trump's tax returns? You said no. And would you support an independent investigation into Russians' involvement with the Trump administration?
The independent investigation is already occurring.
We want to get over it? I'm not going to get over it and give out my country to the Russians.
The independent investigation is already underway. The career prosecutors in the Department of Justice are conducting that. And then you have a bipartisan committee, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The Senate has a counterpart. Well, there are classified issues that they're going to be discussing. I want them to have the ability to move with facility through both classified and unclassified information.
And do you think giving Trump's tax returns and looking into his financial ties with Russian oligarchs
The
should be a
president
big
has
part of that?
complied with all of the
I
financial
don't care what he's complied with. I'm hoping, and maybe this is something that you can't talk about, and maybe you don't know because it's probably being done by the intelligence community, but the intelligence community. However, if they don't look at his ties and how Herbert Ross is tied to it, how perhaps Jeff Sessions is tied to it, Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, Carter Page. We need to have all this looked at and to have.
Did you look at Clinton? Oh,
Okay, let's keep the debate on the floor here. I asked for a classified briefing in October. I was denied till the 1st of December. I asked for a classified briefing last week. I received one. I asked for additional information for next week, which is classified. I will receive one. So what I will tell you is I am doing what I need to do to be up to date and up to speed on all of these issues.
Thank you. So you are also concerned. One step at a time. Are you concerned?
I am concerned about the evidence of Russian influence prior to the election having happened.
And now you're okay if it continues?
I was concerned about Russian influence prior to the election, and I continue to pursue those leads. I actually don't think they're going to get involved in the school board elections. But
Thank you.
Forgot about the fluoride thing.
My name is Liz Dyer. My zip code is 76244.
Yeah, you cut the line. That's right.
I'm the mother of a son who's gay, and I am, because of that, and because I've been concerned about his freedom and civil rights and protections, I've worked over the last 2 or 3 years to build a community with other mothers of LGBT children. Being here in this school today makes me think about LGBT youth. I hear a lot of very writing stories about these kids. They have a lot to carry just being in this minority. It's hard for a young person to have something different to deal with, to be on the edge, to stand out, to not be like most other people. That's a lot just for a young person to deal with. And they need to know that their parents, their teachers, their elected officials are on their side and are going to protect them and take care of them. We've made a lot of progress. There was a study recently that showed that the suicide rate of LGBT youth went down considerably after same-sex marriage was legalized in this country. Because it gives these kids hope that they didn't have before, hope for their future. And so I'm very, very disappointed and concerned that the present administration has decided to go backwards and to not even try to support a guidance, not even really a law, a guidance to public schools when it comes to protecting trans youth. And I just want to say trans youth are even more vulnerable. Even more vulnerable. They have to deal with it. So I want to ask you, as one of your constituents, will you stand up and go against whatever flow there is and stand up for this minority? Yes, it's only a few compared to the most of us. Most of us are not LGBT. But these are people who are good. My son he's a taxpayer, he has a job, he's a good citizen. He lives his life in an honorable way. Just last month, I knew of 2 young trans people who killed themselves, and I know of 2 more who are saying they're not sure they want to live. One of them said they would try to wait until their mother died so she wouldn't have to deal with it. These are horrible things for young people to have to think about. Will you stand up and protect these LGBT youth?
Well, I do think that protection is important at this level, at the school level. I did think the guidance that came out through Arnie Duncan's Department of Education, I did not agree with that. I think it can be done at the state level, and it should be done at the state level.
I want to say I do disagree with that. I think we need a national continuity for this. We saw what chaos came of it when marriage was up to the states. We need it to be consistent across our country. We don't need a trans child to be able to go to the bathroom of their gender identity in one state and their parents get transferred because of a job to another state, and all of a sudden they can't do that. That is not fair to our youth.
I have a lot of faith in our schools locally, and I thought they were doing an excellent job. I don't think the guidance was necessary or welcome. And I think our schools here continue to do an exemplary job. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shauna Schlebach, 76244, and I have 2 fairly quick questions for you. First of all, you were talking earlier about how the media has helped to divide both sides in this country lately. That is mostly because of the 1987 repeal of the Fairness Doctrine. I originally went to journalism school at the University of Missouri to follow in the footsteps of Walter Cronkite and Linda Ellerby and the people that we can respect in the news. When that repeal happened, we got things that separated us. We got both sides. We had the extremes on both sides. Would you support introducing legislation to reintroduce a bill like the Fairness Doctrine? So just a yes or no question.
No.
Why?
You said it was a yes or no question. I was trying to help you. Look, you can't go back. I mean,
That's not going back. That's just putting in fairness, making sure that the news is balanced and equitable and honest.
look, I do my best to make certain that when I'm offered the opportunity to go on Fox News, yes, I take it. When I'm offered the opportunity to go on MSNBC with no thought for my personal safety, I do the same. Chris Hayes, in fact, took one of our little interludes and used it as a promotional piece and ran it almost all of January. So, look, I want the media to do their job. I think it's important. I think it's important for us as discerning consumers to be discerning consumers. I don't know that you're going to be able to go back and legislate where things were prior to 1987. I will point out I was not in Congress in 1987.
Okay, he's answered. The other thing I want to say is very quick. Given that the people of Flint are still being told to use bottled water and the dangerous construction of oil pipelines that threaten the safety of the ground and water supplies, millions of Americans are extremely concerned about the Trump administration's systemic dismantling of the EPA. Will you do to protect these most valuable and necessary resources to ensure that our children and grandchildren can grow and prosper, breathing clean air and drinking safe water?
Well, the EPA is not going to go anywhere. We do have state agencies that will continue to have the primary responsibility for ensuring the safety of the air and drinking water.
Water and air cross state lines. They can't stop at the boundary. That has to be covered.
Environmental protection agencies then is available to come in over and above the state agencies. I don't think that arrangement is going to change. I am concerned, and I have been concerned for some time, about the large fines levied by the EPA, that actually the EPA is funding its own activities with its fines. Those fines need to go back to the general revenue, the general treasury, and the EPA needs to receive its funding through an appropriation. Now the EPA was responsible for getting the scab off the Gold Cane mine and certainly disrupted the quality of the drinking water in the Animas River for everyone who's downstream. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been long awaited. I wanted to commend you, first of all, in April of 2016, you co-sponsored HR 4956, which is also known as the End Executive Overreach Act. Your website says, and I quote, "This legislation would prohibit the use of federal funds, fees, or resources to implement an executive order." In the first 6 weeks of his presidency, Trump has signed 26 executive orders. These orders will cost millions of dollars to implement. My question to you, will you commit to holding Trump to the same standard that you held President Obama? Yes or no? Yes or no?
and accepting another's wholeheartedly put country over party. How?
And executive orders are confined to those things where the executive actually has control. Executive orders have historically been used in both Republican and Democratic administrations. It was when the executive order was actually used in lieu of the legislative process that became problematic in the last administration.
Will you commit to reinstating the same bill that you held the former president to this president? Will you commit right now? How is it that your beliefs have changed? What has happened?
I honestly don't know. Did the bill pass? Probably didn't pass the Senate, did it?
Will you commit to reinstating your co-sponsorship of this bill? Yes or no?
I do not know the legislative history of the last bill.
You co-sponsored it. Will you check it and then commit to doing it again? You're going to submit this bill?
Let me look at where it is. I certainly take your consideration and take your comments quite seriously.
I will be following that.
Well, my name is Gary Capital, and I live here in Flower Mound, zip code 75028. On Tuesday, President Trump, discussing his tax plan, described it as a massive tax relief for the middle class. On Wednesday, Forbes magazine had an article analyzing these tax cuts, and it said they would amount to about $6.2 trillion over the next 10 years. And of that, the richest 1% of this country would receive 47% of those cuts. And if you define the middle class as the wealthiest 20 to 80% of the population, they would get a combined 20% of those cuts. And the percentage of the increase is higher as the income increases. So this is a regressive tax cut, not progressive. The middle class would see a 1 to 2% increase in after-tax income. The top 20% would see a 6.6% increase, and the top 1% would get a 14% increase. And if you say that that's not very good and you support Paul Lang's plan, it's even more regressive in this article. The plan says the top 1% would get a 77% of the cuts, and the middle class would get only 2.5% of those cuts. So my first question is, will you try to make changes to these proposed tax plans to make it more equitable and not only just benefit the richest people?
As you know, my central thesis since I ran for Congress the first time was that we need simplification in the tax code. We ought to be able to fill out a postcard to pay our taxes in. They're having to pay all this money. Why does it have to be so darn hard every year? So that is still my primary goal. I want simplification in whatever happens next.
I think it's disingenuous for the president to call this massive relief for the middle class. It's clearly not. I have another question, follow-up question. The people that were talking earlier about the Russian influence on President Trump, we're not talking about Ukraine, okay? We're talking about several people who had discussions with Russian ambassadors and then lied about it. And several times last year, over the course of the campaign, you called for a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton's email thing. Will you call for a special prosecutor to investigate Trump's
recusal of himself, Attorney General Sessions' recusal of himself from this issue. It is in the hands of career prosecutors within the Justice Department.
I specifically called for a special prosecutor to investigate.
The reason I called for a special prosecutor is you recall Bill Clinton spent an hour on a plane with Loretta Lynch. That was the appearance of impropriety, that was improper.
It's not impropriety when
Look, you've got independent career people who are doing the investigation.
special
Do you want it done, or do you want to have a fight about it? It's going to be done.
Hi, my name is Jason Galbraith. I live in Little Elm, Texas, zip code 75068. And I have 3 questions which I'm going to ask quickly.
Good.
And what year did you enter the workforce? Would you say the country was more prosperous back then, and prosperity extended to more corners and more communities in this country? And could that have anything to do with the fact that the top tax rate for people at the top of the income scale, people like congressmen and executives, was much higher in those days?
Short answer, no. Proceed.
What year?
I had a variety of jobs while I was in college, but my first full-time employment was as an intern at Parkland Hospital in 1977, and for that year's service I received $9,700. Proceed.
My name is Michael Carr, and I'm a Meet Defeat Group. I have a couple of questions and one observation to start out. First of all, thank you for supporting truth in media. I think anybody that tells a lie, whether to me or others, should be the enemy of any reasonable citizen in the United States. The second thing is the Affordable Care Act is neither affordable nor does it provide care. Since it started at the beginning, the premiums have more than doubled in every state in the union. In fact, in Arizona last year, it doubled in 1 year. Additionally, the insurance company participation on a state-by-state basis has dwindled to just a few. Our choices are no longer there. And as we all know, the Obama lie, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. But you can't even keep your hospital anymore because it's broken. So my point would be, I'd like to understand what your commitment is to repealing the Affordable Care Act because it is completely broken. There are a couple of segments of it which we're looking at on a go-forward basis, such as pre-existing care, and it's already been straightforward by you addressed today that you will try and include that in any legislation forward. I'd like to get kind of an update from you on where you think we are in the repeal process as far as a procedural type basis goes. And I'd also like, lastly, to hear your thoughts on immigration. You're a congressman with the state with the largest southern border in the United States. We have a huge illegal alien problem. It's not illegal immigrant, it's an illegal alien. Read the IRS definition of what an immigrant is and what an alien is. Read the IRS definition. Okay? We have legal immigrants and we have illegal aliens. Okay? They're two different people. So I think the United States is one of the most compassionate countries to allow people to come here legally. There's a process here to come here legally. Okay? We should adhere to that process, and I'd like to hear your commitment on enforcing the current laws around the books regarding immigration. And last but not least, thank you for your service to our country and for all the time and effort you put into being the best that you can do.
First, on the Affordable Care Act, we've already addressed that. It will come up under a reconciliation bill, although it hasn't been noticed. I believe it will be next week. And removal of the penalties for the individual employer mandates will be, in my opinion, a big step toward getting things right again as far as health care is concerned. Pre-existing conditions, with kids under parents' insurance, the lifetime limits are not part of the discussion because they cannot be under reconciliation. They were not in 2015. They will not be this time. The As far as immigration is concerned, and I've been straightforward about this through every election cycle that I have been in, I do believe we ought to enforce existing law. You're right, the United States is compassionate. We take in 1.1 million people every year legally, more so than any other country, in fact, as many as every other country on the face of the earth combined. And I think we have an obligation to the people who are citizens to, well, let's put it this way. Does the United States as a sovereign nation have the right to define and defend its border? I say yes.
One follow-up on the Affordable Care Act. The people have really benefited from this in the hospitals because it's capped their losses at whatever the deductible is for the particular person who's covered. Currently, it's a joke that says it's an Affordable Care Act because the policies that are provided for low-income people have deductibles of $10,000. They can't afford health care, they simply can't afford a $10,000 deductible. So when you look at that, really, the hospital lobbying group was the one that benefited. I know you know many of those people because they call on you regularly. What will you look for in the future to level the playing field so that doctors aren't painted with a tar brush for being bad people and hospitals don't benefit from the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I do want to mention that the 18 amendments that I introduced before the Affordable Care Act passed, one of them is to take the word affordable out of the title. Because I knew back then there's no way in the world that this was going to be affordable. As you're correct in some of the assertions, yes, hospitals with the removal of both putting more people on the rolls of the insured, in theory, hospitals were going to do better. They will tell you that has not actually turned out to be the case, and that is why the part of the Affordable Care Act that kicks in, remember, parts of it are still being implemented, and the part that's going to be implemented this fall that reduces the disproportionate share funds to hospitals is going to be particularly hard for them. As far as how do you deal with the public perception of health care, separating doctors from hospitals, that's a hard one. We're all basically in the same business. Doctors are independent contractors, or used to be independent contractors. For the most part, the consolidation that has occurred in the healthcare industry, largely because of the strains put on it by the Affordable Care Act, I don't think have been helpful. My contract was always with my patient, not with the hospital, not with the government. I wish it could remain that way.
I just think it's easier to put a BMW in a big house with a doctor than it is with a hospital executive. I know, for instance, a person lives near me, he's a hospital president. He made over $1.6 million last year, and he's not even a doctor. So, thank you for your honesty and your candor for having me.
Thank you.
Dr. Burgess, good morning. Thank you for your service. My name is Dr. Jerry Burkett. I'm a constituent living in zip code 76244. I'm not paid to be here, but I am an educational leadership professor at the University of North Texas at Dallas. And so my concern today is on education, so I want to change that conversation if we could. My specific concern is House Resolution 610. It's the so-called school choices and education bill. And aside from being a clear voucher bill, which research, the body of literature says, confirms time and time again that it does not increase student achievement, it completely repeals the Elementary and Secondary Schools Act of 1965, which is the most significant piece of education legislation in the history of public schools. What this does is provides Title I, Title II, and Title III funding for schools of low socioeconomic students. So in your district, you have 68,000 students living in low-income means. Will you commit today to protect those Title I, Title II, and Title III funds instead of pushing it over the school vouchers?
And will you commit to saying no to a voucher bill, which the Texas House of Representatives in Austin has already said they're not interested?
Yeah, the bill in Austin, obviously, I don't have much familiarity with. On the You know, the direct answer to your question is I'm always cognizant and protective of things back home. That's part of my job. I don't know that I'm familiar enough with all of the things that you cite, so I'm going to have to study that. And if you would like to leave contact information, I'll be happy to get back with you on that.
Well, thank you, because the complete repeal of the Elementary and Secondary Schools Act would hurt every school nationwide. That's 10 to 14% of the funding. And our public schools, which are already deeply underfunded, Texas is 45th in school funding. So I thank you for your support on that.
Texas of Dallas. I appreciate your service to the institution there as well. If I can just say this, and it is a little bit unrelated to the line of questioning that you brought forward. Yeah, we're concerned right now with the Affordable Care Act, with that stuff that's happening right here and now. Concerned with what happens in tax policy going forward. There was a suspension of the statutory debt limit of the United States of America. This was an agreement between Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner right before he left as Speaker, Harry Reid over in the Senate. And this is going to hit sometime late April, early May. And there will be another debt limit discussion in this country, much the same as there was in July and August of 2011, and you remember how difficult that was. Any federal program going forward, I mean, there is going to be an accounting that is necessary, and a decision that will have to be made over dollars, and that is, no, I'm sorry, that has included the military. If you recall, the military was hit with discretionary cuts in 2010 and 2011, and then the sequester in 2013. So it is going to be a big deal. You're talking about educating kids. You're talking about the citizens of our country who are going to carry us into the future. We do need to be careful that the amount of debt we saddle with them is not something that they can't sustain. I'll just leave you with that thought.
Congressman, we're 30 minutes past what we originally indicated. We have to vacate the space. Apparently they use this for purposes other than just town halls. So,
I thought they built it just for us.
we have time for a couple more questions.
I'm really grateful that Marcus was able to provide it for us. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning. I am Phoebe Collins. I'm a relatively new resident of Texas. When you shook my hand this morning, I decided that must be you. I appreciate your coming here. I appreciate the enthusiasm of the crowd. The people that who I've spoken to have indicated to me that people in this area, as well as the area that I came from, have deep distress. I believe that's why you see the crowds here today that you see. I believe one of the reasons for that distress is that number 45 speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He did the most effective job I had seen the other night in saying the words I wanted to hear, and I think it was an effort to calm the seas. And as you can see, the seas are not calm. And the reason they're not is because we've heard both sides of nearly every issue from this individual. I also want you to know that I lived through the era of hiding under my desk in fear of a bomb. We are now friends with Russia. No one understands why. We are now protecting our president from answering why we should not be afraid of this affiliation. I also am concerned about the fact that the party who represents you has historically considered themselves a mouth to their Christianity to the world. I am a Christian. I am also a Democrat. I resent any implication that if you're a Democrat, you cannot be Christian. The issues that you hear from each of us, the issues that you're hearing from each of us, are issues that deal with humanity, issues that deal with people lying on the sidewalk because they can't afford health care. The only answer to health care is the same answer that every other country in the world provides. We are protecting insurance companies. We raise rates on insurance if we have them, are because the insurance companies want to make more profit. We are here to represent the little people in your country. We want you to represent our needs, not the needs of the corporate, not the needs of number 45, not the needs of either Republican Party, but the needs of every single American. Whether they be gay, women, men, black, Muslim, Jew, we all count. And we want you to show will you keep every American in your mind on every decision that you make? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Sims, zip code 76182. I'm a hardworking small business owner with decent income. My wife also works. By all accounts, I should exemplify the American dream, but last year my son had an emergency health situation which required 10 days of inpatient care at hospital, followed by 2 weeks of outpatient care. We had the absolute best healthcare plan that was offered in the entire marketplace with the highest premiums and the lowest deductibles. I chose this plan trying to be responsible because I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to pay the high deductibles on a less expensive plan. Even with the absolute best coverage available, I still had to get a second job 6 months ago to help pay off the medical bills that we incurred just over that 3-week period. I've had family coverage insurance for 20 years. My premiums have gone up by double digits, not just the last 8 or 6 years, every single year since I got it. These runaway costs cannot be explained away as a symptom of Obamacare. This has been happening for decades. Healthcare as a free market has failed due to massive, unethical profit-taking of doctors, facilities, drug companies, equipment providers, and most of all, insurance. And it's all in collusion with Congress. Our government has allowed big business and the top 10% to run away with all the cash scot-free, while the middle-class people like me are left holding an empty bag after having just received a virtual diagnosis of cancer. This administration's loud, boastful claims about magically fixing everything and removing the restrictions from business have not inspired confidence that anything helpful will be done to help the millions of people just like me. We, as a people, are on life support, and the only way things will start to get better is by getting rid of the legalized bribery, collusion, and corruption will you commit to having 0 meetings with lobbyists or special interests while you're in Washington and seek only to meet with your fellow lawmakers to do your job and meet with your own constituents just like us? And if not, how can you claim to be working in our best interest? That's number 1. Number 2, as a doctor who is committed to do no harm, what specific, non-magical thinking ideas, such as health insurance across state lines, will you introduce to the upcoming healthcare reform conversation that will claw back costs, cap them, and bring real, meaningful change to allow the middle class to start to be able to recover from the cancer that is inflicted on us for the past 20 years?
So the first issue that part of the question that you asked, I do have we are under a major Food and Drug Administration reauthorization bill. We had our first hearing last Thursday. It has to be done by July, or the Food and Drug Administration will have to start furloughing people. So this is important work, and it needs to be done. But I have met with, yes, people in the industry, yes, people with rare diseases, yes, people who do research, yes, people who administer care, yes, people who run hospitals, because they all have an interest in this being done correctly, and that the Food and Drug Administration will continue to be able to function and do its job. So the part of your question where you said, I didn't meet with anyone that has any interest in this, I think that would be counterproductive, so that answer is
How
no.
about people who know things that are specific to that industry but don't give you money?
I mean, there is no requirement for, I meet with people who ask to have meetings. I've met with many of these
I
people.
know there's not a requirement, that's why you're able to do it. I'm asking you to voluntarily do the right thing and don't meet with people that you to be voting on their product in your legislation.
Look, I do the right thing every day. What was the second question?
That's a non-answer. As a doc, what specific ideas are you going to bring to the healthcare reform conversation that's about to take place that will help the middle class? That's it.
The primary metric, the primary measure of success of anything that happens going forward in healthcare, whether it's maintaining the Affordable Care Act, doing something different, the primary metric that people will apply is what happens to my premium, what happens to my coverage.
It's much more. It's deductibles.
And that is going to be one of the central themes. I do believe if you allow, states are different, and if you allow states to innovate the way they want to innovate, I do think that you can achieve a significant amount. And again, I referenced the Health Affairs article about the pools in Maine that have been very, very successful, bringing down premiums, increasing coverage, increasing patient satisfaction. Why wouldn't you be for that?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't live in Maine. But I do know that legislators say that it's a matter of state choice. That just means that they don't think that every American should have the same type of coverage. But I don't live in Maine, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you, and best to you and your son too. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl. I live in Oak Point. for a tax to be levied on carbon dioxide emissions. This funding would not be used to grow the government. Instead, it would be returned to every American household in the form of a dividend check. Their purpose is to reduce the threat of climate change. I was wondering if you had heard of this proposal, what your opinion is, and when you are planning to join the Climate Caucus in Congress, which has an equal number of Republicans and Democrats.
I have heard of the proposal. I have not had a chance to evaluate it. As you may have read in the papers, I've been busy on the health subcommittee with other things. Our committee in 2009 did hear the arguments on what was then known as Waxman-Markey, the cap and trade bill. I saw a number of problems that occurred that I thought were brought forward by that bill that would be ill-advised, and although the bill did pass the House of Representatives in June of 2009, the Senate never took it up that year. You recall that year that there were 60 Democratic senators, so they could have passed the bill had they wanted to. I will tell you since that time, everything that has happened largely at the level of the agency. There has not been new legislation that has really received any sort of critical mass. I was aware that Secretary Baker and some others met with people on Capitol Hill, but I really haven't had a chance to evaluate that.
Thank you. This is actually not a cap and trade bill. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Congressman. My name is Zach Lahr. I'm a constituent out of Keller, Texas, 76244, and a senior at the University of Oklahoma. So you're hired, let me know. But my question is, so in June of 2015, Donald Trump kicked off his presidential campaign by accusing Mexicans of being racist and murderers and bringing in crime and drugs. He's proposed to build a wall, and estimates right now are about $35 to $40 billion. So are you at all concerned with how the proposed Mexican border wall, the associated Mexican tariff, would affect the Texas economy, jobs in the housing markets, or industry growth?
I certainly know that we do not have operational control of the border in Texas, and particularly that sector that's referred to as the lower Rio Grande Valley sector. That has been a concern of mine for some time, even going back into the Bush administration. There are serious problems that occur on a daily basis for citizens in that area. I am in favor of doing whatever is necessary to do to have operational control of that part of the border. As I've told the earlier questioner, I do believe that the United States has a fundamental right, a sovereign right, to define and defend its borders.
I'm sorry, but that doesn't answer my question. If you look at every single political analyst I've talked to, they have said that this tariff, the 20% tariff of which is about to be proposed, would be detrimental to the Texan and American economy. I mean, for example, you look at avocados, they cost $5 right now, we charge that 20%, they're just gonna go, hey, now they're $6. So it's gonna cost more for any goods and services that come out of Mexico. And Mexico is one of the largest trading partners in the state of Texas. So by allowing this tariff to happen, we would be causing such a detrimental effect to the Texan economy. People are losing their jobs, their houses aren't being able to afford anything. So are you concerned to ensure that Texans will not be economically impacted by this tariff? And I
mean, there is the border adjustability tax that is being talked about. It's not being talked about as the funding for the wall.
Well, no, that's coming from the taxpayers.
Right, but that's, I mean, that border adjustability is part of tax reform in general. And while I'm not really central to that debate because it's not in my committee, it's something I have been following because it obviously does create a lot of concern, both pro and con, in businesses in Texas, so I am aware of that, but I don't think that is the primary funding mechanism for, again, what is going to be done on the border.
All right, thank you for the non-answer. You have a great day.
Dr. Burgess, I've I've got it at 11:20 for the 10:30 ending time that we had. I need to get you out of here. We also need to get the building closed up for LISD. Okay. So with that, that will be the last question.
Yes, so Dr. Burgess, we met as we walked in here.
Yes, sir.
So I am I live in Frisco Lakes Retirement Community. I'm a retired IBM technologist, market strategist, futurist, and consumer advocate, and founder of a website called Modern Health Talk, where I have been writing about health policy for over 5 years in future healthcare and that sort of thing. And I look forward to working with you on resolving what I see as a cancer in our healthcare system. And so far, Congress has worked only, whether it's mostly Obamacare, but working only on how do we pay for it? And that's shifting money from one class of society to another. And what I'm really looking for you from, and you probably don't have the time to explain your positions on it, that's what I hope to work with you on, is how do we dramatically improve the delivery of care through technology and other means, and how do we, like Benjamin Franklin said, like a prevention's worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, how do we prevent the need for health care? Because in the U.S., we pay more than twice as much as almost every other industrialized nation, but we still live sicker and die younger, according to the World Health Organization. And there is a lot of room, with $3.4 trillion a year, there's a lot of room to cut expenses in half, saving over $1.5 trillion a year, if it were not for the special interest lobbying. I would like to help you craft the story that you can use to be able to stand up to those special interest lobbying and colleagues within Congress to help them understand the business and economic and social benefits of curing our healthcare cancer. Thank you.
You're right. We probably don't have the time to get into all of those issues, but let me just touch on a couple. 1996, with the passage of the Kennedy-Kassebaum Act that allowed a demonstration project with health savings accounts. I was one of the first ones to sign up for that, and over the next 20 years, I actually witnessed the power of health savings accounts, and I do believe that that could be part of our future going forward, particularly if you start at a younger age. There is the ability to put a significant number of dollars into those plans. It is a constant struggle. It is a constant struggle with the Congressional Budget Office on the pricing or scoring of things at the federal level. Any change that you make right now, the budget's always done under a 10-year window. So any change that you make right now always just comes as a cost. There is no benefit. The benefit, as you know, is in the next decade, or maybe even the next decade. And there is no mechanism within the Congressional Budget Office to actually address this problem. One of the other questioners asked if I was working with Democrats on something. In fact, I am on this very issue. Diane DeGette, a representative from Colorado, who's on the committee with me, on the subcommittee with me. This is something that we've worked on for a number of years. It's difficult reforming the way the Congressional Budget Office actually looks at healthcare expenditures, but you're correct. If you're always just looking at what are you spending this month and never what may be affected in the out years, you'll never get there. And then the other thing is, last term, I was the chairman of the subcommittee on Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade. And we had a hearing one day on the medical apps, if you will, the things that you can hold in your hand. I can take my EKG off my cell phone. And if anybody cared as to whether or not my heart was still beating, I could email it to them and they could look at it and render an opinion or a diagnosis. I do think things are going to change upon the technology front much faster than anything that's going to change on the policy front. It is always that way, and it should be that way. I referenced the Cures Bill, which was a bipartisan effort. It took three Congresses to get passed. It almost died at the end of the last Congress, but due to some determination by a lot of folks, it actually got through. And I'll just share this with you. One of the most stunning moments during the inauguration for me was when Jimmy Carter walked down to his seat on the front row. Jimmy Carter, in July of 2015, had gone public with the information that he had melanoma that was metastatic to his liver and his brain. That's July of 2015. I thought the next thing we heard out of Jimmy Carter was going to be his obituary, because that's a pretty serious diagnosis. He put himself into a clinical trial. He received the medication, a new immunotherapy. He walked into the inauguration and walked in and sat down the front row. An incredible success story. Thank you, American Medicine. Thank you for doing that. So we do have to vacate the room. I do want to thank Marcus High School for allowing us to do the meeting here. I was just saying, I don't have a date for you, but there will be others. So watch this space, and we will do this again. As soon as you all recover from this one, we'll have another one. Probably the next one in here